So for people that clearly can recognize you immediately, could you say
fans.
could you say your names on camera and the titles you both have?
Roger Guyett, visual effects supervisor and second unit director, The Force Awakens.
My name is Patrick Tubach. I'm the ILM visual effects supervisor on The Force Awakens.
I could obviously spend this entire time talking about Star Wars, but that's not going to happen. We're going to go back in time for a second because I love Speed Racer, and I believe you might have worked on Speed Racer.
Wow, okay.
Right. I do my homework before I sit down. So what do you remember about the... Because I think Speed Racer is amazing. Maybe 5 minutes too long, but otherwise amazing. What do you remember...
5 minutes too long.
Being honest.
Yeah.
But what do you remember about making it?
Well, I worked on... ILM did a sort of a short sequence in sort of the truck car chase moment in the film. And the one thing I remember about working on the movie, honestly, is just the off-the-wall creativity. You know, that was such an odd film. And the, you know, just anything goes. There were no rules, basically. And, you know, I think John Guyett, who now is working at Lucasfilm, was the overall visual effects supervisor on that. And working with him, he was really open to any idea that we had about, you know, texture and color style, just whatever would make it more fun and more exciting. And I've never had that experience where it isn't about reality. It's about, you know, sort of the
pushing the
surreal,
way.
you know, like what's the best possible, coolest look you can get for the movie, and that was that was definitely one of those experiences that I don't know that you're going to have again, you know, and it was a lot of fun working on that for sure.
I could talk about that for a while, but let's jump into why I get to talk to you today for a slightly more successful film. You know, I wish it had done better, but for both of you, when you think back on the making of Force Awakens, is there a day or two that you're always going to remember?
I mean, yeah. I mean, there are many days on a project like this. I mean, for me, I mean, it was an incredibly. I mean, to work with J.J. Abrams is, you know, I mean, he's a fantastic guy, and you know, he's so creative. He's so much fun to work with. You know, you're going to have these incredible challenges. You know, and then you throw down The Force Awakens in the middle of all of this. You know, I mean, I've worked with him on a number of movies, and suddenly we're doing The Force Awakens. I mean, it was just unbelievable. I mean, for me, it was just the incredible moment where I thought, my goodness, you know, we're going to do this amazing movie together, and obviously having an incredible crew, you know, Pat and all these guys that we've worked together for a number of years. So yeah, I mean, it's incredibly exciting, you know. And I mean, I remember him turning to me and saying, "We're going to do The Force Awakens." I was like, "Oh my," you know, you know, and the fact that, you know, if you know JJ, I mean, he's such a massive Star Wars fan, so I knew what that meant to him, and so, regardless of how I felt about the project, it was that moment where you realized you just got this incredible, you know, collision of this sort of thing. The making a movie with a guy that he's so passionate about that subject matter. You know what I mean? Like it's the thing that I always thought. That's the movie he should be, you know, one day do. He should do a Star Wars movie because he's just so passionate about it. And then one day he turns to you and says, "Hey, we're doing The Force Awakens." You kind of go, "Oh, okay,
Yeah.
hello," you know, holy crap, you know, and you know, and obviously I personally, I mean, you can't work in this industry and not be a fan of all of that stuff. I mean, it's unbelievable. And the movie has this incredible scope of work, and for me that just makes it so interesting, and you have this history. It's such an incredible challenge. This amazing. It's a very, very long answer to your question, but like these layers of challenges of you're kind of doing like a new spin on an old thing, you know, and even that, you know, what's the new X-Men going to look like? You know, is there something else it can do? You know, I mean, not so buried deep inside me is still that kind of 10-year-old boy. You know, you never feel like you really grow up when you're doing movies like that, because you kind of, oh my God, you're going to have cool guns that drop down and swivel around, and you know, it's just too much fun, you know.
I had a moment on set that was sort of just a crazy revelation moment for me, where we were filming the scene where Han and Chewie come back to the Falcon, and it was in the first trailer where they say we're home. And as they were coming through that door, JJ was sort of directing them and arranging them and having, okay, Harrison, step forward here and Chewie will be back here. And he was, placing them. And I don't know if he knew what he was doing in terms of exactly how he was getting them to line up, but I'm sure he did, and I'm sure he would say he probably did, was fully aware of it, but I didn't know what was happening. But eventually, you're sitting behind the camera and you're watching this frame develop that is the frame that was the poster that you had on your wall for so many years, of those two characters, and it just is like it blows you away, and you sort of sit there frozen for a moment, and you don't even understand, how this is happening. And then, round about the same time, it's like again, you're on the Millennium Falcon, right, which is a huge thing in and of itself.
Walking
and you really
onto that ship alone.
You really feel like
Sitting
you're
in
on
the
it,
seat,
because it's all around you. And I had a moment where I had to leave the set, and I started walking down the ramp, and Chewbacca is coming up at the ramp at me. And it's just the two of us in that hallway, and of course I just walk out because there's no way I'm getting by. No way I'm getting by Chewbacca on that ramp. But for me, in that moment, I'm just looking at him, and all I can see is Star Wars, and it all is real, and it all feels real, and it really takes you back to being a kid, like Roger said. It's like you're just immersed in it, and I think that feeling really came across in the actual movie. I think a lot of people had that same revelation that I did, So.
I heard that scene where Han and Chewie are doing that line. I heard it was filmed like 10 different ways. The way they say it, all that stuff. I don't know what the truth is on that, but I heard it was a lot of different ways because I think everyone realized how important this moment was going to be, and we need to make sure it's perfect.
Yeah, I mean, and there are, obviously there's a certain referential quality to it because these characters are coming back, the Millennium Falcon. So it's not. We're not. Of course, we're aware of that. So yeah, but there are many moments where you just go, oh my god, whether it's the reveal of the Millennium Falcon or the characters, or, there are so many of those moments in the movie. Yeah, it runs. It has that sort of chilling. I mean, the weird thing about movie making is you can sometimes forget because you're so immersed in the process of actually trying to do the thing that you're doing. At that particular moment in time. You get, as Pat said, you're excited, and then there's a moment where it turns into you've actually got to do this thing, and then you watch it back and you go, oh my God, there's the thing, or there's the Millennium Falcon, or that's the. So it has this kind of, it sort of comes in cycles, especially when you see it with the music playing and the characters are running, and it's all fantastic stuff.
I'm very curious about technical challenges that it seems like every movie you make, you learn something new that you can apply to the next thing. Was there something you guys, like the technical challenges of making this, was there something that was just incredibly hard to overcome, or what is technology getting ready to maybe overcome right now that has been a struggle for a long time?
Well, one thing I think that we were keenly aware of is that the iteration is sort of the big thing now. It's not about. I think computers are capable of doing things that we never dreamed imaginable. Over the last 40 years since the original Star Wars came out, the digital technology has allowed us to do things we didn't even think were possible. But now we're at the point where we have to think seriously about how we inject the artistry back into what we're doing and make sure it doesn't become a technical exercise. And I think that part of that for us is just being able to see the things that we're working on in higher resolution and better fidelity more often. And I think
then you can give clearer notes, and you can steer it more artistically.
If you're looking at just a rough representation of something, it's really hard to say what that's going to end up like. But if we're able to sit with an artist and actually see the real, high fidelity representation of that frame,
so
and talk
better feedback and more.
You want to be able to talk aesthetically about something rather than, you don't want to have conversations about technical things all day long. You want to have conversations about the art. And that is where I think, I feel like we were very successful in injecting a lot of actual artistic concepts into this movie. And when I say artistic concepts, I mean taking actual frames of artwork done by people and saying, okay, you want that, we can give you that. And that's something that we have been, we always struggle to do because it is a very difficult thing to do, to say, oh, that's just a piece of art, you can't make that real. But, now we can, and we're getting better and better and better at doing that. So I think a lot of the software is moving towards more real-time interaction and more just sort of...
And actually, as an example of that, we used this incredible new simulation
Sorry, I was getting a note.
Okay, but we started using this new piece of software that was developed specifically for the show, which was this, it's a simulation pipeline, which is way that we model the way that dust and explosions happen and the ground collapses and all those sorts of things. And that was just incredibly, you can't get more technical. You know what I mean? But the results that it gave you were just so artistic in that you could see the way the ground would crash and the snow and the ice would break away and all those sorts of things. So those things just give you this incredible means to an end. But as an example of the technology can give you more immediate feedback. For example, is if you remember the shot in the original trailer where the Falcon flies up to you. And it sort of does this fantastic turn. It does this sort of like a classic, almost Dukes of Hazzard kind of slide past the camera and heads off down towards the Super Star Destroyer. That we could literally, Susumu, who was our environment guy, he had that model laid out, and when we were adjusting it, we could adjust it almost in real time, and it would render a pretty good representation of it. So you can imagine what we're trying to capture is figure out where are the shadows of light, where is the light falling on that thing, and where can I put it so that it goes into the darkness of the engine at a certain point in the shot, and where's the shadow falling, and am I seeing enough along the length of the ship to really understand how immense it is, So all those things just really help you make these sort of compositional choices, and hopefully people see, that subconsciously, obviously hopefully they just go, my God.
They understand the shot.
Yeah, they understand the
what's
shot,
happening.
but to us, it means that we're not taking so long to get to that place, We can almost do it in real time.
I've heard that with the animated movies, that they're getting close to rendering in much closer. But my last question, because I already have to go. When I spoke to JJ, he said that there's going to be like 10 or 20 minutes of deleted scenes on the Blu-ray. Yeah. His first cut was like 2 hours, 50 minutes. I've heard all about some of the deleted scenes. Was there one or two for both of you that you were really sad to see go?
The great thing about, when you make a movie, you just want to make sure that every shot counts, and, every shot has that kind of storytelling moment. So, we want the film to be the best it can be and not too, but I would say that some of the some of the battle stuff that we did, some of the digital, the era dogfighting and stuff like that. I loved some of that stuff, and it was so cool. And originally there was a bit more of that, but again, it wasn't necessarily story driven. It was just some cool shots, There was some stuff we did with speed, the speeder chase, that I don't know if you know about that.
I heard there was I want to say snow speeder chase.
Yeah. That was probably the one significant. There are probably other scenes, I'm sure, but that was the one thing that I really remember, getting cut out of the movie.
There was a little bit more with the Rathtars going on, just a little bit more of that chase moment through the hallways and everything, which, I think
There's some cool stunts in there as well.
There were some cool stunts, and there were some cool individual shots in there that just didn't make it for one reason or another, and I think it just was all have to do with the pacing, and I totally understand why it's not there anymore, but, you have to feel that out. You kind of don't know what you have until you do it in such a way, so part of the process of working with someone as creative as JJ is you start working through it with him, and you really feel like you're brought into the process. And some of that means that you're going to get your heart broken a few times by a couple of shots being taken out. But his philosophy always is what's better for the movie, and he never, it's nothing personal, and it's never like. But if you're hanging on to something just because you think it's a cool shot, it's isn't necessarily making the movie better.
Oh no, 100%. We all know why things get deleted.
Yeah.
It's just interesting because when it's Star Wars and it's deleted, it's another level.
Oh, it's always.
You know what I mean? It's not. It's not just a.
Yeah. And hey, we get that too. But some, we wanted to. Well, I felt like, you want to make this incredible sort of subjective sort of first-person experience, some of these things, because that's the fans are sort of, in my brain, my 12-year-old part of my brain, I'm thinking, that's what I'd love to know what it feels like to fly an X-Wing or something like that. If I'm in the trench run or, any of those kinds of things. So a lot of that kind of thing was always inspiring my thought, when we were putting these things together, is what really drops you into the movie in that way and really gives you that kind of subjective experience.
Totally. I got to go. But how long? No one knows. How long was the snowspeeder chase in the movie? Was it like a few minutes? Was it like a big scene or just a little bit?
It wasn't. It was. I mean, it was more like a little bit, wasn't it? Really.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know how much we're truly allowed to talk about it, but
Hopefully it'll be on the Blu-ray.
Oh, okay.
I said
Well,
I'm hoping.
Yeah.
yeah. It wasn't a huge scene. It was sort of like
An action moment,
It
right?
was just a little. It was a shorter action moment. Yeah.
I got to see it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Let
you
me
very
in.
much.